Dr. C. Ranjan Moran, Dr. J. Mahendra Reddy, Madam, Mr. V.R. Shankara, Mr. Ian Murthy, Professor Banerjee Rao, Dr. V. Pandurango Rao, Registrar, Directors and Deans, other dignitaries, members of the faculty and staff, and most importantly, students. You do me a great honour in inviting me to speak on this Founders' Day. I am privileged and I thank you. That feels a bit daft really after hearing such a fantastic storyteller in action. But I'm going to tell you a story anyway. And it starts like this. It was a dark and stormy night. Now, another English person wrote a story that began like that some 1400 years ago. It was a dark and stormy night, he wrote in Old English, and the king and all his men and retainers were taking shelter from the storm in the mead house, when a sudden gust of wind blew open one of the shutters, and a small bird was blown in. And the small bird hopped between the feet of those in the hall and enjoyed the warmth of the fire and some food from crumbs on the floor. And then it flew out through the open shutter again. And no one knew where it had come from, but it enjoyed some warmth and some pleasant time inside its shelter from the storm, and then no one knew where it went to. And that person was called the Venerable Bede, and what he was really talking about is life. We don't know where we come from, we have some time on earth together, and then we don't know where we go. And yesterday I spent some wonderful time with some very good friends, I hope I can call them friends, at Golconda Fort, listening to the story of 1,000 years of history at Golconda Fort. And one of the incidents that we heard about was about a prince whose father disapproved of his love. And his father only was convinced of his love for the woman and recognized the woman after the prince rode through a huge storm because he couldn't bear to be parted. And that story yesterday began like this. It was a dark and stormy night. And when my granddaughter, who's 7, crawls on my knee and says, "Grandad, tell me a story, make one up," the one that makes her shiver is the one that starts, "It was a dark and stormy night." We're a storytelling species. We all tell stories. We tell them for different reasons. From the wisdom of the great religions, the myths and legends in our national folk tales, to family stories in which we tell our own children the stories that our parents told us. Storytelling is how we grow to know who we are, how we know about the world and our place in it. We use storytelling to impart knowledge, share traditions, and develop understanding. We use it not just to share the old, but also to explore and understand the new. Storytelling is about vision as well as definition. It captures vision, makes it memorable, and delivers it in a way that people can understand. Businesses and corporations, and I was really interested and captured by the mission statement of this institution. Striving for excellence in research, teaching, and practice. Why was I so gripped by that mission? Well, because stories contained in the cases that are taught and written in the classrooms and Case Publishing Centre here in Hyderabad. The case method in business and management education was first developed at Harvard Business School over 100 years ago, although a Greek called Socrates got there first. It has since spread around the world and is recognized as one of the most impactful and engaging approaches to sharing hard-won knowledge and understanding of business, and in particular of business decision-making. The case method is based upon storytelling, but with audience participation not just encouraged, but essential. The case method brings the audience, the students, into the center of the ring to join the storyteller and take over the narrative through question. It does not provide one essential element that we all enjoy in a story, a happy ending. It does not illustrate or just give an example of best practice or worst practice. It does more than that, and it does it by withholding something, by withholding the ending. Students have to assume the responsibility of working together to create an ending. It does not ask what the constraints or difficulties are. It tells you what the constraints and difficulties are, and then asks, how are you going to deal with those? What is your decision, and why? Justify your decision to your teachers and to your peers in the classroom. And after, sometimes, crucially, afterwards, also explain your decision to the executives and the protagonists who appear in the case because your teacher has invited them into the classroom to join you. That seems to me to be real theatre. It seems to me that sometimes people ask, what's so great about the case method? It's not true research. Well, what they mean by that is it doesn't have the cachet that publishing a research paper in an academic journal has. And I think that confuses the issue, because a research paper is not research either. It's an output of research. And the case that is written to be taught in the classroom is also an output from research. The difference between the research paper published in a journal is that it's like displaying a specimen in a glass case. Students may look, they may understand, but they can't touch. The case method invites the students inside the glass to take up the specimen, examine it from all angles, touch it, question it, become it, be one of the protagonists. In this, it reflects on our own passage through life. Our personal stories have many paths, and every step has different forks. For each fork that we follow, there are many left unexplored. We each, as we go through life, write and refresh our own stories. And I'm delighted to see that the case method flourishes here with such strength and diversity. The story of the case method here at IBS is one of vision, realization and impact. The vision of Mr. N.J. Yasaswy in 1999 was extraordinarily ambitious when he spoke about bringing into being the very first case publishing centre anywhere in India. Where he and you led, others have followed. Many similar case centres have sprung up in the last 5 years, but IBS was ahead of its time and has stayed ahead of its time in its approach of constant renewal, constantly rewriting its own story. In those early days, there may have been people writing cases, but they wrote as individuals, and the quality was individualistic, and the approach inconsistent. Your founder saw the case centre as a key to establishing a culture in which the case method could thrive,
producing students with the right worldview to become well-rounded global managers. And essential to that is providing a mix of cases that explores multinational as well as national companies, and local businesses as well as those huge corporations. Businesses of all kinds, inside India, outside India, cases starting with companies that are based in India but spread around the world, cases starting outside India but with companies that have come in, and cases that are still local, still developing. The mix, I think, is around 70 to 30 between external and Indian focused cases, and it seems that that is a really key to producing well-rounded students that are with high levels of employability in a modern economy. The realization of that IBS vision came through the ambition of the Case Centre under successive directors to provide quality that refreshes and improves over time. And I pay respect here to SS George, G.V. Muralitera, and Deba Pratim Yasaswy. In 2006, the Case Centre produced another first. It introduced case writing templates, especially with regard to teaching notes. Now, students may not know about teaching notes. I hope you don't know about teaching notes, because they're not meant for you. Teaching notes are supplied to your teachers to give them insight into background resources and to possible solutions to the case. And that's to help them to teach the case more effectively with you. But the teaching notes are an essential component of the overall case experience. So, the introduction of case writing templates, especially with regards to teaching notes, and the means of sharing those with the faculty worldwide, the insights of the author into how best to teach the case, was a real breakthrough and a means of ensuring consistently high levels of quality. And inducting staff also in the case team and faculty across all parts of IBS into the arts of writing excellence. I'm sure this wasn't without resistance. It may have seemed too formal to some people and challenging to existing concepts of academic writing. So it was a real achievement to introduce that. And I pay tribute to the work of your directors and the team at IBS Case Centre here. It's an extraordinarily good team, and they've achieved so much. And as a result, IBS has become a mark of good teaching cases. That's recognized all around the world. IBS cases are extremely popular, and they're recognized as being popular and of high quality by the most difficult form of peer review. That is the peer review of other faculty around the world choosing to select these cases to teach their students in their classrooms. There can be no more difficult audience to convince than that. Peer faculty around the world were teaching with cases originating from IBS Hyderabad and still are. And the statistics speak for themselves. Since 2011, students have worked with over 500,000 IBS cases, individual teaching instances of those cases being taught in classrooms around the world. And each year, cases from here are taught in between 650 and 700 different individual business schools around the world in over 70 countries. That's a huge impact on the teaching and the educational experience of students and schools at a huge level everywhere in the world. And the tradition of vision and realization continues as the Case Centre at IBS continues to challenge accepted norms and introduce innovative methodologies in case writing. The now director of the Case Centre, Deba Pratim, is one of the most celebrated and widely distributed case authors in the history of the Case Centre. Our own history is that the Case Centre was originated from a group of UK and Irish business professors who wanted to introduce this radical new method into the UK and Ireland, and find that they didn't have enough cases to teach with, and they didn't have the skills to teach with them. So they founded the Case Centre as a means of getting easier access to cases from around the world, and to improving standards within the UK in teaching with cases and in writing cases with a UK and Irish focus. So we now have the largest and most diverse collection of cases anywhere. So to say that we're celebrating cases from here means that those cases are in competition with cases produced at Harvard, in Seattle, London Business School, Darden, Singapore, cases from collections around the world, and the cases written here really hold their own and lead in that competition. Professor Perpeastra has won many of our annual case awards and is regularly #1, as we've heard, in our top 40 of case writers. G.P. Muralidhara and others have featured in that list. Deborah Vertin talks and presents at leading conferences such as the Academy of Management, and delivers workshops spreading his lessons among faculty everywhere. The latest innovation, groundbreaking and widely admired, is a case written in the style of a superhero graphic novel. Do any of you students know that case? Any students know that case? I'm sure you will do, and you will enjoy it when you come up against it. The graphic format case Turbulence on the Tarmac won our 2019 competition for Best Compact Case. And I know from speaking to faculty at conferences around the world that it has gathered enormous respect for its engaging format, with real, insightful and impactful learning in an easily digestible form that really has impact in the classroom. So we have vision and realization. But what of my third topic, impact? The impact of case writing as a research output is a virtuous circle that begins with building contacts with business in writing the case. It's a real skill to identify the situation that you're going to write the case about, and then to gain the trust of the business people that you're going to interview or whose scenario you're going to feature, in order to get them to open up and disclose what really happened. Or to write a case from newspaper articles and other third-party sources, in identifying which of those to trust, how to read between the lines in building the case. Those originating skills are really prized. Then in writing the case narrative, you keep your research alive and relevant and based on real current business experience. And in writing the case, the academic aligns that research with teaching in the classroom. The next step is to take the case into the classroom, and in delivering the case in the classroom, the author delivers impactful learning to students. But they also establish a different dynamic in the classroom, one in which the students gain from and respect the teacher who has written the case they are studying. And it takes a very confident teacher to adopt the case method in doing that, because they have to step back from the lecture, the lecture style where they know everything and are telling students something. They have to step back from that and become a facilitator, a guide that steps to one side and supports the discussion between the student group. And it takes a very confident and polished teacher to be able to do that. And then if the case, having been taught in the classroom, is distributed to other schools, it carries the brand of the school. And it isn't just a brand that recruits students directly. It carries the values, the academic values of your school into classrooms around the world. And isn't a brand really just another way, a concise way of telling a story? As I've said before, the brand of ITFI and IBS Hyderabad has been carried successful into thousands of classrooms in the most highly ranked schools in the world. And that isn't just limited to formal business school classrooms. Many of the companies that are participating in case writing also adopt the finished case in recruiting newly graduated students, or inducting them into the company culture, or in examining and improving their own behaviours and practices that were captured in the case and are now evidently in need of improvement. This industry adoption also improves the management skills within industry, creates new or stronger links between the school and the industry, often in the form of placement opportunities for students or sponsorship, and deepens the trust between the author and the company, which in turn leads to further research opportunities at a deeper level. Many leading case authors find that their career trajectory is supported by focusing on researching into a particular company through repeated visits to write more cases at even deeper levels. And so the circle continues. The next research opportunity produces another case, which strengthens the link between research and teaching in the classroom, and so the circle goes round. And so the circle continues, and so the story and the storytelling continues. For like all good case studies, like life, your story doesn't have an ending either. It comes without one. It is the responsibility of faculty, staff and students to generate the next chapter in the story of IBS and ITFI. It's a tapestry, and all of your threads are woven into it, and all of your actions from this point on help to resolve an ever-resolving and never finally resolved story. Your story is celebrated here at Founders Day as a remarkable one of vision, realisation and impact. Long may it continue. And thank you again for allowing me to